Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about a subject that's it just keeps cropping up on the internet and everybody's talking about it in some way or another. And that's basically, what would you do in case society completely collapsed for any number of reasons? It just recently came out of 2 years of COVID and riots and stuff like that. What if that spread went nationwide and a complete societal collapse? What if the, factions started fighting amongst themselves? Whatever. What would you do, and what do you expect to happen in a situation like that? So we have several people here today that are going to chime in and add their 2 cents. Of course, Jason is joining us once again.
Hey, guys.
And then we have Chase from Definitive Arms joining us today.
How you doing?
And well, guys, let's talk about this though. So we see a lot of interesting folks and a lot of interesting conversations will come through the shop, not just the shop, but at the range and in the communities we run in, right? And we hear everything. And I have some funny stories, and if we have time, I'll share maybe 1 or 2. But it's really interesting. Everybody has a different idea of what, we'll just call it, shiznit hits the fan, right? Of whatever happens, where in essence you have American against American, and you have to protect your own nut, right? And what are you going to do, and how are you going to do it?
All right.
Right. So I think a lot of people have it in their minds. Now, we have an awful lot of people that are probably watching this video right now that actually have combat experience. And I look forward to those comments down below and hearing what you guys have to say about this. But outside of that, there are gear issues, where you're going to be issues, where you're going to put your stuff issues, where you're going to sleep at night issues. Are you going to get out and bug out? Where are you bugging out to? All these questions. And then you have the folks that, think that, well, I'm prepped for something like that. Well, what do your preps consist of? Oh, I got a rifle and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. Okay, yeah, you're well prepped. It's just all these things that people come up with. And then I also don't want to forget to talk about all the internet comments. If this happens, I'm going to start doing this. And it's like, and you're posting that on the internet. Why?
Right.
Are you trying to impress somebody? Or are you just trying to get yourself shot in the middle of the night by somebody else? It's like, what are you doing?
Some of the best preppers are ones you don't know about at all.
Oh, they're the ones that don't talk about it, don't do anything. And I've always said, the man you fear isn't the man that tells you how tough they are. The man you fear is the one that doesn't say anything, right? So all the people that go in the comments like, this is what I'm going to do, and this is I'm just like, oh, face plant. Can you just stop with that, please?
We see so many different YouTube videos out there showing people how to do things. That's nice. You should consume that content, like how to, wild game, how to prep and store wild game without refrigeration. I mean, that's kind of a big one, right? Most people, I think, seem to think that, like, when the societal collapse happens, or let's just get it started, or whatever, let's kick this off, or whatever it is. Most of them, I think, they seem like they're just going to wake up in the morning, or going to toss their gear off. Well, I'm just going to go shoot some people today, or whatever it is.
It's 9 o'clock, honey. I'll be back.
I'll be back at 4 o'clock and whatever. And they go out and they and people are just lined up like a video game or something, and they have multiple lives, and if they get hit, or they just slide another plate in, like
every time they get hit,
Modern Warfare or whatever it is. But I think that's what a lot of people think, and in all reality, that's not going to be the case. If it does happen, or if you kick it off, or whatever it is, you're going to become the bad guy. You know what I mean? They're going to track your entire life, everything, to find you, or whatever it is. You can't use your credit cards. I mean, there's cameras literally everywhere. You know what I mean? Ring cameras, street cameras, store cameras. There's cameras on your phone. Your phone can triangulate your exact position, and they're carrying that thing in their pocket. I mean, there is so much stuff that people don't think or know about that follows and tracks them. And what they say, and what they do, and this how long they sleep.
Goes back to the internet tough guys that always want to post about how tough they are and what they're going to do to a federal agent that shows up on the front doorstep. They know you said that. You've just now put yourself on a list. Why would you do that? Why would you voluntarily? If you really think that that's going to happen, why would you voluntarily put yourself on some sort of a list? Now, I voluntarily put myself on many lists for political reasons. That's because I like to fight for Second Amendment rights. But what you don't see me going out there doing, and people always go, hey, Mac, what are you going to do if X happens? Well, I'm not going to post it on the internet for them.
Right.
It's just, so, and then if you don't respond to whatever it is they want to hear, you know, some crazy act of violence or whatever they want you to say, then, well, you're just a bootlicker.
Right. You're a coward. You're a whatever. You're, you know, whatever.
And these are the people that when the knock on the door comes and they see that badge, here, take it. No, it wasn't me. No, you know, they're not the tough guys. The tough guys are the ones that aren't posting all over the internet about what they're going to do. Okay, enough of that one.
But
Chase
and I talk about a lot of this stuff. We talk about this because there is so much to food preparation and prep. I mean, we have to have food, water, and shelter. I mean, that's kind of the things that we have to have. You have to be able to, now if it's kicked off or whatever it is, again, your home may not be there for you to go to. Then what? You're going to go check in at a hotel. You're going to go, you know, take over somebody else's home.
Well, just get an Uber, dude. You got a credit card.
Well, right, you know. So shelter, water, you know, clean water sources and things. You know, most people are like, well, I got a well, I'm good. It's like, you know, wells can be contaminated, right? You know, so I mean.
Or dry up.
I think that's a line of thinking that everybody just assumes there's got to be like a, you know, an antagonist there. Like it's going to be a conflict like the Chinese invade or something crazy. Like there's going to be like somebody to focus on. When the reality is, like, we live in Northwest Indiana, you know, if there is a conflict-oriented unrest, it might not be on our doorstep. The power could just go out, and it's like a gun will do nothing. It could be months where you don't hear a single gunshot go off, but do you have clean water? Do you have the ability to keep your family warm? You know, everybody assumes, like, it's about projecting against an antagonist. It's like, are you looking inward about your family? Like, it's great that you bought night vision, another gun, and all that, but it's like, did that plate carrier immediately feed your son? You know what I mean? Did your wife not freeze to death because you bought another case of ammo? It's like you have to think, like, you know, preparing for a hurricane, like looting is a possibility, but like weapons are third tier. It's not primary. And you're immediately worried about clean water and keeping your home protected.
No, man.
Staying
if you got an
water.
M16, AR-15, AR-10, 10,000 rounds of ammo, just take what you want, man. Just point your gun at your neighbor and take whatever they have. That's not going to, you know,
the people
end
who say
badly.
That are terrible at math because, I mean, statistically speaking, you have, we'll say, 50-50 chance of winning a gunfight. So if you need at least a meal a day, a minimum, to survive, within 2 days, you're dead.
Yeah.
That's your plan.
And of course, I was being facetious about that. And I also want to clarify when I say the silent people are tough guys, I'm not implying I'm a tough guy. I'm just telling people, just shut up. You don't need to broadcast. So, okay, anyway. Yeah, I mean, people don't really think about that. People, and we've seen people, you know, say, we've been in conversations where people have said things like, I'm getting prepared for X, and I want to buy a sniper rifle. Okay, your defensive weapon of choice is a sniper rifle. Well, we do live in wide open spaces out here. Sure, I wouldn't mind having one. I mean, it put meat on the table. It can, you know, whatever you want to call it. A sniper rifle, to me, it's just a precision rifle. It's capable of long-range precision shots. Don't want to, you know, trigger anybody by saying sniper rifle. But, you know, that's your tool of choice, and that's what you're going to buy your sniper rifle and a bunch of match ammunition. That's how you're going to defend yourself. Okay, so let's say, like, and the thinking, of course, being that if they're 800 yards away, I can take them out before they even pose a threat to me. And my response is like, you do understand that throughout human civilization, there will be rule of law again. No matter how bad the conflict may be, no matter how bad the collapse is. I mean, the Soviet Union went through it in the early 90s, you know, and theirs wasn't that bad. But by comparison, it wasn't like their entire country was blown apart. They just had bad economic collapse, but there will be people that are going to hold you accountable for your actions at some point.
Of your actions is huge, and even if it's not structured through rule of law, I mean, tribal law
neighbors are going to get PO'd. Yeah,
you make a bad call. Some guy's lost, and maybe he's about to freeze to death, and he saw the campfire you had, so he's approaching you. The dude's not even armed. You shoot a guy at 800 yards, like, oh, he's obviously here to harm my family. What happens when the search party looking for him realizes you've shot him? Maybe they outnumber you. Maybe they have more guns than you. So it's like you made a preemptive call. And you don't realize that was actually Bob, who you knew from the company Christmas party 5 years ago, and you shot Bob needlessly. Like, this idea that everything is going to be a preemptive attack, that everybody's against each other, like, guys go way too quick into the, oh, I immediately have to become Rambo, and everybody's a threat. You know, there's like a bell curve. The people who tell everybody that they're prepping are kind of dumb, and there's people who stay quiet, and there's people who are selective and actually network and do tell the right people and build it up, because you're going to get sick, you're going to need to sleep, you're going to need to do things, and people are going to have to provide overwatch for you or do a patrol while you're sleeping. So you've got that sniper rifle, and you have an 800-yard perimeter, and that's your red zone. Anybody inside of that's getting smoked. Well, that's a lot of ground to cover. Are you glassing all day? Who's skinning game? Who's tending the garden? Did you sleep? Maybe you got a stomach ache. Maybe you're stuck in the crapper. Like, who's on watch? You pissed off all your neighbors. You have no team. You have nobody who trusts you because you've been that lone wolf guy, like you are not going to survive as a one-man team, especially if you have 3 or 4 mouths to feed.
Yep.
You know, like in your household, like, not that I'm sure your family members know how to shoot guns, but it's like you're the immediate #1 warrior, if you will. Somebody boots in the door, like you're the
I'm
front
the guy
line
that
defense.
answers the door. Right.
So if you're out doing all these things and you get smoked, they're done. They're done.
They're in a bad way.
So how can you do all of these things while providing security? Like it's impossible. Like the idea that you're not going to be communal, that there's not going to be some level of having to think about the consequence, having to deal with people, like, wait, let's see what this guy's about. Let's see if he's sending out radio signals. You need to communicate with your neighbors, even the ones you didn't like before the lights went out. Like you need to take all that into consideration.
Yeah. And if you're a prepper, you need to have a network of people that have different skill sets, right? And combat skill sets, I would say, it would be fairly low, certainly not #1. You do want your trigger pullers. I mean, but let's, like you said, stay out of gunfights, because every gunfight you get into, there's a very high probability you're going to lose, right? And I can guarantee you, I don't care how tough you think you are, there's somebody tougher.
Right.
And I don't care how many people you have. Say you have 10 people in your group, there may be a roaming band of combat vets that have nothing better to do, and they're coming for you.
Right.
And now you got a real problem on your hands. So you need people that have all sorts of skills. People know how to operate radios. People have medical skills. People that know how to, grow gardens and tend. People that can hunt. People that can salt meat and store it for a long time. Know what to do with an egg after a chicken lays it. How to store that egg for long periods of time. How to can. All these skills come into play, and then you got to ask yourself, well, where do I put all this stuff? Because it's a lot of stuff to acquire if you truly want to survive in a rural area where I'm at. So city dwellers versus country dwellers, obviously 2 different AOs, and we can get into that, maybe what somebody would do in the city. I don't live in the city, never have wanted to, never will. But you got to store that stuff. You got to be able to have a base of operations, right? But then what if that base of operations becomes compromised? Well, you got to have a backup plan. Go to a relative. We have a network of relatives in our area and close friends sitting at this table. I know I can rely on certain people. We have radios. We all have the same frequencies.
That's part of the
we
network,
know how to take care of ourselves. And that's through a communal effort, not us going, let's get 5 guys together and we're going to go over there and kick that guy's rear end and we're going to take everything he has because he's got some nice stuff. That's the quickest way to get yourself killed by everybody around you.
That's part of that community, is maintaining enough to where, like, if you really are completely destitute, you have nothing on you. If I walk into your camp with nothing but a blanket on me, like, people are going to take me in because they know, they've witnessed the misfortune that put you in that situation, but they know, like, oh, this is a guy who will pull his weight, is going to be trustworthy, he's not going to kill us in our sleep. It's like, if you don't have some level of networking community, it's like you're not going to survive. So everybody who thinks the solution is buying another case of ammo, so maybe you should pick up a book, maybe you should join like a local gardening group, a local chicken club, and there's just all these other skills that you'll need to have. And being around people doing those skills, it'll parlay into other skills. One of the guys at the chicken club is also an expert mechanic, is also a farmer, you know what I mean? And the greater that circle is, the greater the overall capability. You look at, like, again, to bring math into this, it's like the rate of casualties in a gunfight is going to go up without immediate medical care. So we talk about, like, in the military, the average casualty versus the actual death. It's like you have immediate team members who are pulling you out of struggles. You have surgeons, you have medication, you have all these things right
behind you. Got you on a bird back to a field hospital with antibiotics, and they can do surgery right there.
When the lights are out, you have none of that. So you
cut yourself on a barbed wire fence, you can die of an infection within days.
Exactly.
So every move
people don't think about that.
Calculated.
Right. A simple cut could kill you. You know what I mean?
Much less a gunshot wound.
Right.
Just a cut. Fleeing a gunfight can kill you.
A tooth gone wrong can actually kill you. So, I mean, there are so many things. And, and again, like those folks that say, I just need this to pop off already. It's like, again, like, you're going to become the enemy. Your home, your everything is fully compromised. You can't go back there. You're literally, now you're out in the woods. You're in the street. Have you ever taken, we'll call it 48 hours of your time, and gone out to the woods with a tent or whatever, and solely sat out there cooking your food and whatever your preparations are, your pots, pans, whatever you brought with you, living in your tent, and like bad wind or rain or snow, like, it'll make you think, like, oh wow, this is actually like either boring or whatever.
Have you ever walked through the woods? And we're talking about country folks. We should talk about city folks too. But have you ever just walked through the woods? Like, I do this all the time, and tried to identify plants and what's edible and what isn't. Like, I have a phone app, but phone apps aren't going to last forever. You need to commit it to memory. right?
Yeah, I've got like a book where I do that, but I know it's like not the norm because I'm into that kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, I have gone out and been like, oh, identify plants.
What mushrooms are edible? What berries are edible? What, roots are edible? These are things you need to think about. Far beyond what rifle you have, what plate carrier, and what, if you got quad nods or not.
Like you said, I got 10,000 rounds of ammo. Well, that's great. Do you know how heavy 10,000 rounds of ammo is?
And what are you going to do with that? You're going to bug out with that?
Right.
It's great trade. Sure, you can trade ammo, but eventually you're going to run out of that. You trade ammo for food. You'd probably be better off keeping the ammo for yourself and learning how to find and maintain your own sources of food.
Because just tote around, grab one of your 1,000-round cases, if you will, and tote around with it on your back for a while.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it gets heavy. You know what I mean? What are you going to do with it?
Well, that's just what you go into the bug out thing. I know folks that live in more rural areas, and their thing is I got a bug out vehicle, got a bug out bag, got to bug out this, got to bug out that. It's like,
where are you going?
But you got a house full of stuff. Your water purification, your 2 years of storage of food, all that stuff. You're not putting it on your back. So let's say you got, let's give you the benefit of the doubt. You have 5 days of food and water, shelter, clothing, everything you need to bug out. Where are you going in Indiana, bro? A cornfield? You're going to leave your house for a cornfield. Only way I'm leaving my house is if I have some reason, like I'm forced out.
All right,
but then I'm going to go to another house. And so, yes, I would use a bug out bag, if you want to call it that, to get me from point A to point B to get to my secondary location. But bugging out, so many people just say, I'm all set to bug out. And the next question you ask is, where are you going? I'm going to go to the mountains. Oh, that's going to play out well for you.
You know anybody there? You have a cabin set up there?
You know anybody? Like, you got any research? Do you know how to walk through it? Do you know what it's like?
When you get there in July, I can guarantee you in February, it ain't going to be the same.
Because like in Indiana, our woods, there's a lot of thorn bushes and things like that you will battle, trying to get through. And those thorns are all going to be poking you through your pants, and you'll feel it. And then again, those can become infected. Just from those barb pokes. Like, there's so much stuff that goes on.
That's the stinging nettles. I hate the stinging nettles.
Good old stinging nettles right through the jeans. Oh, man.
And that's the preparedness, is having that mindset of, like, we're regimented where people think, like, oh, I get up, I go to work, I come home and have a rest period. It's like you think, like, you're going to have those luxuries afforded to you. It's like, are you realizing it's like your entire day-to-day structure, how you spend every hour is going to be completely different, and the things you thought might be available or not going to be available at all. It's like everybody always defers back to this comfort zone. It's like, well, I'll go out and do this, then all is well. Like, then what? Okay, so you picked up your pack and you're now in the middle of the desert, 1,000 miles from anybody. You're also 1,000 miles from help. Like, what are you doing there? Like, do you have a bunker that no one knows about? Like, you can't just, you bought a Humvee, you bought a minigun, you've bought all this stuff. But so if you take it away, you're still just a dude with no skill and no plan. Like, material, you can be separated from material stuff instantly. I could smash my hand chopping wood, and now all the guns I bought don't mean anything. What's my plan after that? There's tons of stuff that can happen.
I grew up during the Cold War, and this is one thing I always found. And this is when I was a younger kid. I thought, what are these people doing? And this was going on even before I was born or was even aware of what was going on around me. But that continued on up until the 90s, right? The Cold War mentality. People were building underground bunkers. So where's the logic in going in one way in and burying yourself underground to accomplish what exactly?
It has a limited application, and reading about the phenomenon, like gauging, like look at castles, like siege warfare. It's like you make a really fancy cabin for yourself, or a coffin for yourself, because it's like just like in medieval times, like okay, you have a castle, you have this imminent domain. However, there's 360 degrees for whatever archery.
It reminds me of Masada, the story of Masada.
You have to cover, and it's like this is now a burden. And this thing you built to protect yourself is a giant flag that says, here I am, it's secure, warm, and there's tons of food in here, like, come take it. And it's like, you've just really put all this effort in to drawing attention to you, to something that's, from a tactile standpoint, easily defeated. Yep, cover the vent hole, block the door, it's done.
But it makes you wonder how many people spend all that money and time on those bunkers, and they actually take and go down there for a month. Or whatever it is. Like, you don't
go camp
you don't need
there for 5 days with your family and see
go
how that
in
fares.
that puppy
you think you'll be in
with
there for
your
6
family
months.
and live in that puppy for a month. You know what I mean? Like, give it a go. Like, you're like, oh, I'm good, I got all this. It's like, you will go literally insane. You have no windows, you have no entertainment, you have nothing. You've got supposedly everything in there, but you've never experienced it, right? They think they're planned for it, but there's a lot of psychological things that go on. Like, a big morale booster for some soldiers that are out on very long missions. I remember it, like the little piece of candy that come in the MRE. Like, I'd take a couple of them, just that sweet taste for a little bit. It's like, oh man, that's awesome. Or brushing your teeth because you didn't have enough room in your pack to carry that toothbrush or whatever it is. You're like, oh, this is awesome, clean teeth, or clean hair or whatever. Like, there's so much stuff that you'll find that, that you miss or whatever it is. So
you'll get chipped away. It's like you put the tiniest pebble in anyone's boot and make them walk 10 miles, like it's going to wear them down. And it's like there's going to be lots of little pebbles everywhere, and all these little nuances, like, oh, just go into the cabinet, get that burn cream. It's like, you don't have that on you. You know what I mean? Like every little nuance is going to be just inflamed, enraged, and extra multiplied times 10.
Extra.
Well, you know, they're going to go buy $30,000 worth of really cool guy gear because he watched a bunch of videos on the internet. It's going to sit in the closet. They may, most won't, take a training class, and then it'll go right back to sitting in the closet, and then they'll tell everybody, hey, look at my cool rifle. So now the whole neighborhood knows you have it, and like you've really accomplished nothing. And it's like, are you going out and walking 5 miles a day carrying that stuff?
Well,
are you going out and trying to actually learn how to use it outside of a 2-day course? Are you doing anything with it other than just hoarding a bunch of really cool stuff that you saw on the internet and putting it in the closet just so you can say you have it? Well, you know, that seems like that's the majority of what's going on. And that's what we're trying to caution against. And I also want to talk about the folks in the city, because, you know, bugging out does have its application. If I lived in the city of Chicago and things went sideways,
you got to get out of that.
I'm getting out of there.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, but it's more than just, you know, your bug out bag, you know, give yourselves 3 days to get somewhere. 3 days you can cover some ground. They're going to be after you. So getting out of that city is your immediate threat. But then you got to have some place to go, and you're going to have to make arrangements to go to that someplace, because if your master plan is to go to a cornfield in Indiana, once again, you're not going to last long.
There's a guy waiting with an 800-yard perimeter who's not going to be happy because you don't look like Bob.
During COVID in my area in Indiana, there were towns that literally sealed their town off, and they were questioning everybody coming through. Right, and these aren't towns that have major highways running through them. These are county roads with no posted speed limits where these little towns exist. And they were literally questioning everybody coming into their town. Okay, and that was just during COVID. Yep. That was for like a 2-month period.
Well, that was during all that paranoia time of people, you know, going and buying up all the supplies, and then like all the riots and stuff like that. That's probably why they did that, right? Because when people cleared out the cities, like of the grocery stores and things like that, they started branching out to the smaller communities and things like that, and grabbing all their stuff and then bringing it, you know, essentially to them.
People don't realize how fragile like JIT is just in time, you know, goods on the shelf, and you look at like a Walmart, it's a massive goods distributor.
Look at that, dude, the lines of people just trying to get stuff.
Well, you go in and the shelves are always full, and we just assume it's like that. I'm the only person in there. It orients around me. The shelf is full to my liking. When that shelf is emptied like every other hour, but there's constantly somebody replacing it.
Right.
If not a single truck rolls into that bay, every pertinent good, I'm talking about the last bit of baby clothes, but formula, medication, fresh produce, every bit of that's gone in 72 hours under normal conditions. That's regular consumer rates. Now have everybody panic and cut
that's
the
how our supply
off.
chain works.
Disrupt 72 minutes. You know, like it's gone.
Right. You've lived in Florida. You've seen what happens when hurricanes start to roll in. The stores are fully stocked to the shelves, the back end's full of stuff, and within minutes, it's gone.
The news hits, it's gone by the next morning. And if you're not ready, and I grew up, you know, very fortunate. We were upper middle class. We lived in a nice neighborhood, and like my father and I were very prepared. We had generator tied into the breaker and all that, and it'd be hilarious when a hurricane would roll through, and we'd have heated water and still have internet rolling, and people with BMWs in their driveways are like using Sterno to cook beanie weenies, because it's like you bought a $100,000 car, you didn't buy a single prep, and you live in Florida, a mile from the water.
Right.
It just people
hurricanes roll through every single year.
Right. We never suffered
during
once.
COVID. I know where you guys are at, like in all of this. You know how much COVID changed my life during the lockdowns? Not one iota. I didn't need to race to the store to buy anything. I already had a year's worth of food put away. I already had a garden. I already have meat bags running all over my property. And I'll take what I need in terms of food off my own property. Right? Squirrels, rabbit, deer. If I'm feeding my family during something like a lockdown where the government just shuts everything off in the economy, I'm going to do what I need to do to feed my family. But it didn't change my life one bit. The only thing it changed was I just wasn't going into town anymore. I can do without that just fine.
Right.
That's because we were prepared. Right?
I just want people to take notice of this stuff, like how quickly things can clear out, like how you think that you have all this stuff, but have you practiced with it? Have you actually taken, you watch that show Alone, I think it's on the History Channel. You watch those people's like mental breakdown start to take place. They have like some of the greatest survival skills ever, and they talk to these people like, I ain't leaving till I win. And it's like, there was one dude, I laughed. He's like, I'm afraid of nothing. I ain't leaving till I win, whatever. He quit on day one because he heard a bear walking in the background. You know what I mean? Like,
I ask people that all the
time.
time.
It changes you.
Like, have they ever spent like, you know, I lived in Colorado for almost 2 years, and I would go backpacking all the time. And anytime anyone didn't want to go, like, I would just be like, well, I took the weekend off, like I'm going by myself. And I ask people this, like, you know, you have a phone, you hear a radio, you hear other people constantly. Whether you're like, oh, I spent the day by myself. You saw cars drive by. You heard and saw people, whether you realize or not through your IG, whatever. Have you ever gone like 3 days for your life where you didn't even hear a car 10 miles away? Like you weren't sure if you were the last human on Earth or not. And it's a weird thing. Like by the end of day 2, like you're having conversations with yourself, cooking, like, man, it's a good meal. I'm going to sit in the fire by myself to hear a voice. And like I'm a guy who spent a lot of time alone in the woods, and I want to assume I'm generally a little more stable in that regard. Like by the end of day 2, like I'm just saying words out loud, and like the trees
just
are
to
my
hear
friends,
something.
And like people who've never endured that, now the lights are also out. 'Cause for me, I'm like, oh, I can go get in my car, I can hike back to my car, and like when I go home, things are good. I knew it wasn't the apocalypse. Well, people who don't also already have that skill set are not psychologically prepared, and the power's out, and they don't have food, and those people are gonna lose their shit.
Yeah, they're going to go crazy because they're not prepared. I always, during that whole COVID thing, I laughed at all the toilet paper and stuff that was going on. I'm like, these people don't even have enough food to produce the amount of poop that would require for this toilet paper. You know what I mean? Like, what is going on? It was like the 22 ammo years ago. People waiting in like these massive lines for the truck. Like, hey man, I know the time that 22's coming. It's like, what is this, squirrel apocalypse here? What's going on? You know, like,
well, the whole toilet paper thing was going on. I thought it was a joke at first. Then I went to the store, and it was legit.
I thought it was
like
a joke.
Have these people literally never wiped their rear end with leaves? I mean, seriously, it's like that's what you're worried about.
Or like people still use reusable diapers. I mean, diapers that like heavily soiled, and they wash them. It's like cloth exists, cotton exists, boiling water. And
have a dirty shirt that you can just wash in the local stream.
Used to be essentially
toilet paper,
reusable cloth.
We're consumers. We've gone from humans are the epitome of tool makers and tool users. That's what separates us from everything else. The majority of people are no longer a tool maker in the sense that like they're not creative enough to see the utility value and everything around them. They become just blanket consumers. And we have people who, that's why they're purchasing goods. They bought the bug out vehicle. They have no plan. It's like instead of spending $100,000 on some souped up off-road vehicle, you could spend a couple $100 at a evening course learning auto mechanic maintenance, and the proximity of you coming across a broken down car that you maybe fix in an Armageddon situation that gets you to the next place is way more likely.
Or just jumping on Facebook auto group or wherever you buy cars and doing research. What's the most common pickup truck in America?
But
and then buying one because
sexy.
You know you're going to find parts for it everywhere.
And it's not sexy though. To read a book's not sexy. To go pay for a training class and do magdum's sexy. And like people want to do stuff that's fun, that looks cool. Eating the food's always cool. Growing the food, that's not cool. Nobody wants to go out and dig in the dirt and garden. Eating it's really fun, but no one wants to prepare to how do you harvest the seeds from the goods. Like, oh, I can garden. Yeah, when they go to the store and buy pre-planted stuff that they put in the ground in a cup. Well, I can garden from seeds, from genetically modified seeds that they buy every year. And you recirculate the seeds. Have you practiced this? And
they don't even know what an heirloom seed is, and then they never tried to plant one and watch their garden fizzle.
And see what works and what doesn't. Experience.
And that only comes with experience, or having somebody on your team with that experience.
Exactly.
Because it is not just like, oh, I'm going to put this peach seed in the ground after I finish my peach, and I'm going to have a peach tree tomorrow. It doesn't work that way.
So
generally,
I mean, kind of what, and I've worked with like my neighbors and community and stuff like that, and we all kind of know each other's skill sets. We all have our phone numbers. We all have, like, I know my one neighbor's strengths and weaknesses and all this other stuff, and how we can work as a team, if you will, should something arise. You know what I mean? That's the cool part about my neighbors and getting out and becoming a small community, because you're going to need that community. If it kicks off or if whatever happens, you're going to need that community. You know what I mean? Now, I know what's going to happen to me. I mean, I'm going to end up blowing my back out and getting smoked by some Karen's 2-shot Derringer while I'm trying to get a, packet of toilet paper, I guess. That's what's going to happen to me. Like,
I know, right?
I'm not going to have the opportunity for throwing the kid on with the dual quad nods and being like, yeah, it's going to be getting out of my car. Oh, Karen. Oh, God. Yes, I'm trying to get the last propane tank at the gas station, you know what I mean? So that's what's going to, I know my luck, you know what I mean? So that's what's going to happen, so.
Well, I think that we've pretty much covered the bases on this one. I wish I could speak more to what folks in the city might have to deal with. I'm not a city dweller. I've never wanted to be, never will be, and so I can't really speak to that. But there are things that obviously they can do. Learn, get online. It's such a massive resource out there.
If you're a city person, have you ever taken the time? And I know some people have maybe never left the city before. All right, drive out of that puppy and see how long it takes you till you reach open fields or woods. Like if you're in the
rush
center
hour,
of that puppy,
and then magnify that by 10.
if you're in the center of that puppy, there is so many buildings, streets, houses, suburbs, you name it, and it goes on for miles. You realize how long it would take you to get out of that mass population center. You should try, and then, like you say, have the broken down vehicles, road blockages, roving bands of people that are trying to take from one another because they didn't prepare for anything. And again, that's all going to migrate out of those cities too. They are going to come out into the country to essentially, all right, we don't have what we need here. We need to go to these people.
Everybody,
right?
it just kind of goes out like
so you need to have a
stone in the
defense
pond.
plan in place. Everybody needs a defense plan in place, but you know what I mean? But again, you
Don't
need to
just
be working
focus on that.
Don't just focus on that. There is more to, whatever, kicking off or whatever it is. But again, your plan, don't go around and tell everybody.
Right.
Just
and
do
also,
you and just know.
Don't get excited and don't say, I can't wait till this kicks off, because I don't think you know what you're asking for.
No idea the misery that's involved with that. No idea.
I like going home and setting what temperature I sleep in and deciding what I'd like to eat and flipping a switch to cook it. It's great.
That's not to say it won't happen or shouldn't happen, that we don't have that responsibility at some point.
Exactly.
But we should do everything in our power to avoid it, because I don't think people understand what the implications are. It's just all too easy to sit on the internet and say, I can't wait till this kicks off. And it's some guy that weighs 300 pounds eating Cheetos in his mom's basement, looks an awful lot like Fetterman. Sorry about that.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right. Like you said, there is a time and the place for this, for that type of stuff. But again, like this, I can't
exhaust
wait
all
for
of
it to
their
kick
options.
off. Like exactly, you need to be exhausting all their options, because again, if it does kick off, that's when the misery kicks in. Like true, like that is when
That's
your
when
whole, like you say,
that's when your family starts to die. That's
yep.
when people you care and love about start to get sick and die, or just get plain shot by people that are just evil.
Just
I
like
mean,
with a-
it is a bad world out there, and it gets 100 times worse when you turn the lights out on folks and you take their food away from them and everything else that they need. They become animals, and it's just nothing good comes of it. It's an ugly period until it rectifies itself. But
I think most people would have to say, like, if you were to make a mission statement about what is your actual goal, like why are you even remotely prepared at all? Why do you have this mindset? The majority of people stay alive, keep their family safe, like that's at the end of the
goal.
day, like you just want to keep your family healthy and happy. So every action you take has to be like, is this really in the betterment? Like, I'm going to go invite trouble or whatever it is you think you're going to do. It's like, you could just lay low. You literally could just stay right where you're at if you have the things you need because you had a little bit of foresight, and just not get involved in extra gunfights or drama or BS. Like, that's it. Like, if your sole goal is just to survive, sometimes you don't actually have to do anything if you took a little bit of action ahead of time.
Right. So now the trolls are going to light up the comment section with us being a bunch of bootlickers, cowards, and I can only think about.
I don't know.
I know it'll be
Lord
funny.
knows.
It'll be funny to read because all the experts will come out and the tough guys will be filling the comment section with all their words of wisdom. Guys, if you enjoy content like this, please consider becoming part of our Patreon family. You can find a link in the video description below. Also, if you're looking for specials and good deals and stuff like that, we do have a Linktree link in the video description below. If you'd like to support us here on YouTube, there's a little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Mash that join button, and you can support us right here on YouTube in the age of demonetization. Last but not least, please swing by and check out Copper Custom. Thank you for 14 years of support. Be safe, prep, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Take care, guys.